Hello, hello, and welcome. Happy morning to you. If you're tuning in today, I am so excited to have you here, and I'm very grateful for this platform and for you. Because guess what? We create new opportunities for ourselves and for each other. Now, today, I am thrilled. I'm thrilled because it's a new day, it's a new beginning. And for you, my friend, I want to encourage you. Let's win this week. Let's make this day and this week matter. My name is Jana Masik. I am the host of this LinkedIn Live broadcast, Powering Unique You. And here, my mission is to create conversations that can help you accelerate, can help you improve, and become a better leader, a better person. So let's dive in. Tell me where you're coming in. Tell me how your day is going on. Say hello. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be here with you. Also, I have a very special guest today. I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. Last week, if you tuned in, last week we talked about how to pivot your career, and I had an author who walked us through the process on identifying the ways that you can improve, the ways that you can grow and find a way to pivot, more of a self-discovery. And today, almost like a continuation of that conversation with another fantastic professional. So this person has pivoted his career completely. His journey, listen to this, his journey began as the priest in Catholic Church, and he served there for years and he excelled in what he was doing. Yet then he moved to New York and found himself to be an executive and a leader for the organization that has achieved great results. Then he pivoted and he established his own company, and now he is helping professional leaders and organizations to evolve and to be courageous and intentional. Now, he's based off Toronto, and he's also proud to be an American and Canadian citizen. I would like to welcome Brian Bachan. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Jana. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes. Oh, so happy to have you here today. We've had a few conversations together, and I believe the topic of today's conversation is very relevant, right? Mm-hmm. How to move beyond fears to freedom in changing your career path. Mm-hmm. So, Brian, tell me, why are you so passionate about this topic?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to be here today and to be on your show, and for all who are watching. I'm so passionate about this particular topic because I personally lived through the journey, and I know so many individuals have also lived through this and are going through it, whether they are contemplating about making a career decision, or maybe because of the COVID situation and where things are at now, things are being forced upon them to make new decisions. And with that, there can be fear, there can be uncertainty. But at the same time, there is tremendous opportunity for us to evolve to a new level.
I agree with you. I do feel that it starts from within, and that's the meaning behind Powering Unique You. You are the one to power yourself. You are the one to see your value, to discover your uniqueness, and be unashamed, because although we are unique and we are wonderful, there are some flaws. Let's admit it, right? We all have fears. We all have challenges. We all have things that hold us back. Mm-hmm. And I am also passionate about this topic and so excited to talk about it with you today. Now, let's say hello to our viewers. We have Felipe tuning in from Toronto. We have another LinkedIn user, I think it is Stephanie. Stephanie saying hello. I'm so excited to have you here. Saying hello, Jean and Brian and everyone. Bring you greeting from Harlem, NYC. Brian Bogard in the house. Hello, Brian. So good to see you. And Victoria is joining in saying, good morning, Jana and Brian. So happy to have you here. We have Sergio from Houston, Texas, saying, hello, Jana and Brian. Wow, we are so excited to have you here today. This is going to be an episode full of packed value. So take your notepad, absorb as much as you can, and most importantly, participate. Now, Brian, please tell us a little bit about your personal journey, and maybe give us some insights on what helped you personally to overcome the fears and move yourself to freedom as you walk through that journey.
Sure, absolutely. So, as you mentioned in the introduction, my own personal evolution is very unique to myself. I had been a priest for 8 years, and after 8 years, came to the decision that I wanted to move forward, to live my life authentically in a new way out into the world, and to bring those gifts. But in order to do that, I just remember feeling that, I knew I wanted to move in a different direction. There was the desire to do so, but there were also some fears. There were fears about, what are people going to think about me? How is this going to impact those that only know me in one way? The fear of also, wow, what kind of work am I going to do next? What kind of financial stability am I going to have as I move forward? And, it was there. And I think one of the most important things is you just have to own that, recognize it, and realize that fear shouldn't keep us away from our goals and our desires. But fear can be the catalyst to what is trying to emerge within us to bring us to that new place. And that really was one of the most important things to realize, that not to be afraid, just to recognize the fear for what it is.
I absolutely love it. I admire that you have experienced that, you have embraced that, and you now showcase and help others to identify those areas and to find ways to grow, to improve themselves. And Brian, I would love for you to also share with us how to identify, accept, and surrender when it's time to change. When someone is feeling, hey, it's time to change, how do they walk through this process? Maybe you give us some nuggets on that, please.
Yeah, sure. So I think for every single person, it will always be different. But I think there's a couple key areas to be attentive to. One is when we're not feeling joy. Joy is really the result of always knowing when we're aligned with our gifts, our passion, and where we're at. When joy is lacking professionally, that is usually an indication that, wow, I need to take a look a little bit deeper on what am I really wanting to spend my time on? Where do I really want to bring my passion and my gifts? And to be honest about that. The next is, sometimes it's also a sense of also going deeper into, wow, I thought this was the path I was going to be on, but now I'm feeling drawn. I have a desire to go in another direction. And a lot of times that is really compounded because we've invested a lot of time, whether it's education, whether it's being part of a company or an organization. But we have to realize that in order to keep growing, that we need to go deeper, and we need to look at that to realize that it can really help us to move forward to what's next and to really be attentive to that. Those are two areas that I right away recognize that are just so essential for us.
I agree, Brian. Joy and finding the fulfillment and finding what the next step for you, how to surrender to the seeking is a process. And I can reflect to that on my own journey. I've pivoted careers in different ways throughout the years as well. And I feel it's gaining clarity because on this journey, as we grow and we develop and we foster new skills or new passions, it is finding what is bringing me joy now, right? So maybe what brought you joy 5 years ago or 10 years ago doesn't bring you joy anymore. Right. So what brings you joy now? What makes you passionate? What makes you excited and say, oh my gosh, I want to dive into that? That is a great indicator to you to say, yes, I do need to, maybe look into that and start slowly and respect the process. I love that that you're sharing it, Brian. And we have more people joining. We have Terry saying hello from Chicago. Hello, Terry. Sharon saying good morning from Colborne, Ontario, and Sharon Zelmer saying good morning from Toronto. You have a lot of Canadian friends joining in today. That is fantastic.
Great.
Amanda is saying good morning from Phoenix, Arizona. We have people from different countries joining in. So good to have you here today. Now, Brian, how to deal with the fears? How to deal with those main fears that creep in and hold us back? We almost internally put ourselves in a jail, and we are just gravitating like, it's not comfortable because maybe you're not as good at it. Maybe you don't have, enough credibility, or like you said, you didn't know what's going to be next. What would be your advice to that?
Sure. Fear, often it's like a gang, right? Fear sometimes has other gang members that that fear can creep up with. And, that can be a sense of isolation. When you're feeling fearful, sometimes the number one thing that happens is that we isolate ourselves. We isolate ourselves in our mind, in our heart, and we keep it internal. And, we kind of can ruminate and think about, what about this? Maybe this is going to happen. How do I do this? And, that really holds us back. The greatest first step to overcome some of the fears that we may have, especially when we're looking at our career, is we have to voice it. And, some of the best ways to do that is, yes, our loved ones, our family and friends are incredible people to have in our life to speak about that. But also sometimes to take the next step, to speak to someone professionally, whether it's a coach or a therapist, to go a little deeper into what are those fears? Where is that fear coming from? Because a lot of times, once the fear is voiced, once the fear is kind of spoken into the light, power is lost. And it doesn't mean that the crumbs of the fear still may be there, but it really is an opportunity to then go a little bit deeper and saying, this is the fear. It's not as bad as I think it is. And here are some of the steps I need to take to get to that next point. And you can start to have a plan of who else you may want to speak to. What are some of the things you want to do? And so that to me is one of the most important things to do, because once that is brought into the light, it really can help us to move forward. Because behind our fears is usually the greatest gift of what is seeking to emerge next. And by unblocking the fear, it helps us to see it for truly what it is and what's coming forward.
Brian, this is gold. I love that you say the fear, it brings us in the powerless status. It strips the power out of us and it holds us back. So the way is to really to have this internal conversation. I love that you reflected on that, and then have external conversation to find the people that you admire, and find, maybe it can be, a coach, maybe it can be someone that you admire that are doing things that you want to do, and have the conversations and have a way to deal with those fears that hold you back and move forward in spite of those, right? And I can relate to that, Brian. I could say fear held me back from doing what we're doing today 3 years. For 3 years, I had the desire to go out, and I knew I need to be the voice, share my lessons, and bring others to share their lessons. Yet I was fearful. How people are going to judge me? How is it going to affect my job? Who am I to say? What am I to do that? We can create, it's all mental game. So I love that you're touching on this, moving to the next step. You have to identify and deal with it. And I want to also say, we have people joining Brian from all over the world. We have Johanna coming from Sweden saying, ditching my Spotify playlist for you guys. We are
Great.
so excited to have you here, Johanna. For once, I'm by the computer at the right time. I'm so happy to have you here. Marlena saying, hello, Jean and Brian from Toronto. It says, spot on, Brian. It's Stephanie Cole saying, spot on, Brian. Joy lies in the cross-section of passion and calling. So much power comes from knowing your gift, calling, and then moving forward in activating it. That is so true. This says, yes, speak fear into the light and take the power away from it. This is so true, Stephanie. Behind our fears is usually our greatest gift. That is true. This is a great quote, Brian. I agree with you. This is really good. Now, you've identified, you spotlighted the fears that hold you back. You've dealt with them. Now, what are the next steps? What are the next positive steps that our listeners and viewers can take to move to the next step? And maybe you can bring some of your experience into this.
Sure. So, the greatest thing is once you've identified the fear and you've kind of, taken the steps to speak about it, you have to take action. That is the most important thing. I know in my own life, when I decided to leave the priesthood, work through some of those fears, I put together an action plan and I put together a timeline of, gee, this is the date that I really believe I would like to have a job. This is, the steps that I need to take to move there. And, when you start putting things into action that are coming from a place of desire to move forward in joy, you are amazed at what will come across your path. So for myself, when I took that action to move towards the job, I started reaching out to people in my network. I started just taking chances of connecting with individuals just to share about where I was at, what I was looking to do. Those are positive steps that you often receive affirmation that, wow, I'm moving in the right direction. You receive more insights. And I think one of the things that is really powerful about putting things into action is that you're owning the process and you're also surrendering to at the same time. You don't have to have the answer. It's okay to not know exactly where you're going to land or what will be. But by going forward and being proactive, that is how you are going to know where you're landing. And that is just one of the simplest things to do. Take action and move forward, because if you sit still, nothing's going to happen.
I can say true, very true, Brian. I can testify to that as well. And reflect to my experience on that, going back to say, did I know what this show is going to be about? Did I know I'm going to have such a phenomenal guest like Brian here on Speaking With Me today? No way I could imagine. And then yet I was taking action. I was applying for LinkedIn Live and I did not hear anything for 2 weeks. And I said, I got to get this thing on. I applied another time. I didn't hear anything for another 2-3 weeks. I said, no, I'm going to apply again, and apply the third time. And then when I got the LinkedIn Live, I had no idea what am I doing. I had no idea what it's going to look like, how I'm going to figure out the technology, what is it I'm going to be talking about. Yet taking the small, simple steps toward what you believe is important and what you believe is going to be your next right pivot, your next right career step is so important. And Brian, I also agree with you, reflecting on my professional journey. When I was in a service provider, I wanted to work for corporate companies. And I was pivoting and networking and looking and imagining myself being in that role, yet not knowing how exactly it's going to be like. So I agree, taking action, not even seeing a full picture. And sometimes it's hard. Let's admit it, right? It's so hard sometimes because in our nature, we want to see everything first and then have it, for me, having everything perfectly outlined. And yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible. So I love your advice on taking the steps toward the right direction, even though you may not know how exactly it's going to look like. And you've learned so much along the way. So
Absolutely.
Brian, how do you believe your network, and you touched on that a little bit, your skill, how can it help you leverage to what you desire to create next?
Definitely. And I'm going to jump right into that, answering that question, but I just want to comment on something that you said about taking the steps. One of the things is also to remember is, as you're taking action, it's also okay to make new decisions along the way. That if you're taking action and things aren't working out, or things just aren't going the direction, that also is a sign that, okay, you need to reframe things. So not to be afraid of that. That's part of the process as well. So I think that's an important point, and things that I've learned as well.
Yes.
So talking about network is probably the one aspect that I'm super passionate about. And network is so critical, because network is about relationships. Network is about being authentic in who you are and allowing yourself, your desire, the joy you want to bring, and sharing that with others to help you get there. So I know from myself, practically, whenever I have decided to make a career move, whether it was when I was leaving from priesthood, when I was looking for a new opportunity as an executive, or when I was even thinking about founding my own company, Evolution, my network was critical, because there are people in my network, relationships of individuals that have expertise, have insights. And by contacting those individuals and sharing with them about, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm thinking about doing, what are your thoughts? Or, I'm thinking about moving in this new direction, I just wanted to make you aware about it. And, value if there's anyone that you think I should connect with. That is so powerful. And in my experience, I have found people so generous with their time that when you reach out and you're saying, gee, I'm in transition, or I'm not sure what I want to do next, but I'm feeling this desire about something that is calling me forward, people will be so open to meeting with you or having a conversation. And sometimes we hold back, right? That's where we let the little fears or the ego get in the way of, oh, what are they going to think? They should think I already know what to do. But your network is so powerful. And the majority of the roles that I've had have come through my network, of either being a bridge to the opportunity or helping me have clarity to understand it better of what is next. So I just encourage people to reach out. It's simple steps, reaching out to the warm relationships that you can first contact with, and then building from there. And LinkedIn is one of the greatest tools, more than ever, we can use.
Brian, this is true that number one, your network is about your relationships, right? It's about building the true connections that will lead to collaborations and lead to opportunities. And that comes from the mind that you deliver value to who you connect with and collaborate with. Right. And then I love that you say this platform. I agree. This platform, LinkedIn, is the most amazing platform where you can meet new people, you can build relationships, you can create new opportunities, and you can move from being held by fears into becoming free, into becoming and accepting who you are. And I think a part of it, Brian, is that sometimes maybe we fear of embracing who we're becoming, right? Sometimes we get too comfortable in this one role that we held for quite some time, and our identity becomes interwoven, so to speak, or becomes almost like that role. And when the role is fading away or doesn't bring us joy anymore, whatever reason it may be, we have to move up, almost moving and recreating our new identity, who we are. And I do agree that network can facilitate, can bring the best in you, and can if you build the connections with people that you admire, and the connections that you surround yourself with people that who you want to be like, right?
Yes.
it can really help you bring that identity to the next level, and to say, who do I want to become, and exploring that. And that is those are the great steps, the great things that can happen for any of us, that as we evolve, as we grow, and as we adapt, and becoming the best version of who we can be, right?
Sure, absolutely. And I think one of the great aspects about, tapping into your network and your relationships is, that it deepens you as a person as well. And it helps you have even more clarity about what you're seeking oftentimes. And, it really is essential, especially for people who are looking to move into leadership roles. Connecting with your network is, essential for where you want to be. And also you will learn so many new things about yourself as you engage with other individuals, that it is just essential. It really is a beautiful aspect, especially if you're in transition of looking for new opportunities.
And I love that something you touched on is when you want to move to the next level. That's another aspect of it, because it is easier to do the lateral move, right? It's easier to stay on the same level. There is not much fear associated with it. But it is when you move to the next level, even higher level, something that you have not imagined that you can operate on that level, that's where the fears creep in. And I agree that reaching out and building relationships with the people on the next levels can give you the insights, can boost your self-esteem, and just give you self-credibility. You can feel that you can grow to that level. You can operate. You can become free from these fears that hold you back. And I can share a little bit from my experience when I was, in a entry-level job, and I wanted to move up, and I wanted to see what it may look like to be on an executive level. The thing that I didn't know what to do, I've reached out to the executives in that company, and I said, can you mentor me? Can you give me 30 minutes of your time a month and just ask questions? And the interesting thing, Brian, that I found out from that experience is that the lady that I spoke with that was agreeing to mentor me, she shared that stays with me up to now. She said the people that are on the higher level are just the same type of people. They are figuring out how to solve bigger problems. So that was, wow, they're not out of reach. They're not some kind of superiors. They said they have the same type of problems. They have the same type of troubles. They are puzzled a lot of times, yet they are figuring out how to solve bigger problems. So it can really, really make a difference. I do agree with you. We have more comments coming in our way, Brian. Johanna is saying, fear does not control your feelings and actions. And I have just recently realized how much that held me back over the years on the professional level. Thank you for sharing your insights, Brian. I agree, Johanna. And then we have Stefani saying, so true, recalibration is not a bad word. The landscape around my plan is constantly in flux. So flexibility is a key. Let's admit, I think this year everybody have been in flux.
1000%. Every single human being.
It's just so unclear. It's always foggy. You never know what to expect next week. So we all have to be flexible. I agree, Stefani. So you're saying review, adjust, and revise the plan, but continue to move forward regardless, even if a tiny step. Yes, this is true. And it's saying walking into your power is an awesome thing. Sometimes we fear to embrace to who we are becoming. He's giving me a quote now. This is fantastic. I love the engagement today and our fantastic viewers. As you're watching this and you feel that you've gained some value, please share with your community here on LinkedIn. Share this episode. Maybe type in a couple of 2 or 3 tips that really were relevant and helped you. So by sharing this, you can also help others to gain insights. Brian, this is really good. And I would say, Brian, as we get to closure, how freedom feels. how freedom feels for you. How do you describe freedom? We talk about fears. We talk about how to move from fears to freedom, but what freedom look like?
You know, freedom is a sense of, going back to what I said earlier, it's a sense of when you have a joy deep in your heart of where you're at, that there's a freedom that I'm living authentically and doing what brings me joy. I am connecting with individuals that I want to connect with. I feel as though I'm making impact. That is amazing freedom, really amazing freedom. And I just think, you know, one of the aspects I know that so many people struggle with is a sense of feeling constrained, whether it's in a particular job they have, or whether they're trying to feel constrained about, they want to make a decision, but they're not sure. And the freedom that it brings when you do move forward is a sense of peace and a sense that you're making impact. It doesn't mean that you don't keep evolving, that sometimes other little fears or the unknown can creep in, but there's a different sense of knowing that you're in the right spots. And I know for me, and I'm sure for many who are watching, that freedom is something that is priceless and something that is just truly sets you apart and really just puts you in another place for the impact you can make.
I reflect on what you said, Brian, and I agree. It is joy, it is peace, it is being passionate about where you are, yet being excited about where you're going, who you are becoming, and making a bigger impact. I feel that there are people that have this freedom inside, that they feel that they're aligned with their path, with their career path, and what they're doing professionally. They radiate something that is very magnetic, right? Have you noticed that? There is something special that for people that figure that out, they almost radiate that magnetism that you're like, what is that about this person? What is so special about them? So I do feel that and I agree that, of course, there's going to be some things for us to overcome. But yet, when we know that we're moving in the right direction, and when we know that, we are playing and working in the role that we are meant to be, there is that burden that lifts up. That burden that kind of segues and presses us down is just taken away. And that's where you can think about, how can you make a bigger impact in your life and in the life of others. You can think about, how can you also, help others to discover what they're meant to be for. And you're doing that exactly here with us today on this broadcast, Brian. And this is so admirable. I know when we met, I love that that kind of a energy and magnetism about who you are and what you're creating, and how you helping others, whether it's professionals or organizations, to discover that creativity within themselves and move up to what they want to achieve. Now, Brian, maybe share us a little bit about where our viewers can find you and how they can connect with you.
Absolutely. So first of all, it's been such a joy to be here today. And thank you for all the questions that people have put out there today. It's really wonderful. And I welcome the opportunity to engage further. LinkedIn, if we're not connected, people can connect with me on LinkedIn. Send a note along with the invite of sharing that you were on this, watched on this broadcast. And I would love to continue the conversation from there. Also, my company is called Evolution, and the website is simply www.evolution.com. So you can also send a message through there. And, I really just welcome to hear from individuals, because as we support each other, we grow in our freedom, and we are all called. There's a special mission for every single one of us, no matter what our occupation is, that only we can accomplish. And we can't diminish that. And we cannot take that away, because that is something that we have. And all we're called to do is to be attentive internally to follow that. And that can lead us to the greatest joy. And so we're here to support each other. I know people have supported me, and I love supporting others to move in that direction as well. And so I think that's just great. Love to hear from individuals.
That is fantastic, Brian. Yes, connect with Brian here on LinkedIn. He's amazing. We do have more comments coming in, Brian, before we close in. Stefani saying, connecting with community, networking, and asking for assistance is so important. It stretches you in the very best way. That is true. And Amen is saying, Stefani, I think not true, because many people networking, they haven't a time to answer, or they have a time, but they don't need to help. That maybe is an argument. What do you think about that, Brian? That people don't answer, or they just don't find time to help if you reach out to them?
You know, I think one thing to be aware of is this. First of all, it comes out, how do you reach out? So I think it's like on LinkedIn. When people just send me a LinkedIn invitation without a note, that says something. You know, it's either my profiles come up in their LinkedIn feed and like, oh, well, I'll just connect with this person because of this. You know, if you send a personal note of why you want to connect, the chances are that I'm probably going to respond in a very different way. And I think it's important that when we reach out to individuals, let them know why you're reaching out. And that changes the context. Again, it's about relationships. And if someone doesn't respond, well, after a while, move on. Don't worry about it. Don't analyze it. Don't let it hold you back. Move on. Obviously, it's on them. And I think don't think more about it. And I think that's just a healthy approach. The people that you're supposed to connect with and have meaningful, beautiful conversations to help you move to that next level, they're going to connect regardless.
I do agree, Brian, with this point. And I could say that when people are intentional and they're not just tossing out a net to catch whatever fish they want to catch, right? And just for the sake of catching someone. But when you're intentional, when you research about people, and when you find something that truly interests you, you could say, I found this fascinating on your profile, or I've heard you on this broadcast, or I've read this article of piece of information of yours, and I really like that. It resonates with me. Would you be open to connecting? And not all connections can lead to maybe conversations or relationships. Yes, it's a first step. And when you express that type of interest, when you come from the place of, you know, I would say identifying and also showcasing that you've done your research, right? That you know that there is a reason why you feel that there may be a mutual value there, or there may be a future opportunities for conversation or collaboration. That is received differently. And I agree. The way how you come, it's the way how you portray yourself. And we have, I think Stefani is saying here, thank you so much for this, Brian and Jana. Today was a wonderful, so needed. Have a wonderful day and stay healthy and safe. The same to you. Thank you so much for your participation. It's been a pleasure, Brian, to have you here today on this broadcast. I'm so excited. Thank you for sharing your nuggets of wisdom with us.
Thank you so much, Jana. And thank you to everyone today. Pleasure.
Wow. What an amazing episode. What a great information and tips how you can move from fears that hold you back into freedom when you deciding to change your career path. I believe that when we empower ourselves from within, when we move beyond our fears and discover what freedom means to us, then we can definitely create something amazing. We can become the person we're meant to be. We can become the person that we want to become, right? And let's do it together. And by doing this, I believe we can change this world to be a better place. Now, my friend, keep powering unique you, and I will see you again next time. Connect with me if you want to have a conversation and you think that we can collaborate. I see you again. Bye.